We're back. Hello, I'm Paige.
I'm Monique.
And we are Sacred Potential, where we discuss the overlap of creativity, spirituality, and possibility. And as I mentioned before, you guys, we're back. This is the second season of Sacred Potential. Thank you so much for sticking with us.
Definitely.
Today, we have an amazing show to kick off the new season.
Yes, he is a producer, writer, and director from Los Angeles. He's based in Hollywood, and his name's Spencer T. Folmar. And he is an incredibly fun person, first of all. We love talking to him. And he's doing something really unique in that he's bringing stories that are faith-based, but not in the traditional sense of the words faith-based. He is actually doing something a bit different and telling stories that are real and more accessible to people to relate to.
And we look forward to you guys getting to learn more about Spencer and just his filmography. And take it away, Spencer.
Guten Morgen, guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
Good evening, actually, here.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Welcome,
Thank
Spencer.
you.
Thank you
It's
so
so
much
good to
for
be here.
joining us. Like,
for having
truly,
me.
you're so glad to get to meet you and talk with you. Okay, so my first question is, especially for all of our listeners, like, if you didn't tell me what you did for a living or what your name was, and I said, who are you? What would your answer be?
These are great questions, by the way. And thank you so much for having me on
Yeah.
Sacred Potential podcast. How would I say who I am if I didn't say what I did?
Mm-hmm. Or your name?
Or my name? So I am a storyteller talking about stories of pain and loss and unforeseen redemption. Thanks. I know you gave me these questions in advance, and so I thought I'd have better. They're right here. I thought I'd have better answers, but here I am. Here I am,
Hey.
Lord. Monday at 9 a.m.
Okay.
Okay.
The stories that you're telling and how you choose to tell them are incredibly significant and long overdue in faith-based films. So I was curious, how did you yourself, Spencer, come to faith?
Great question. So I came to faith later in life. Actually, after university, I went to an informal Bible school overseas. I was having an early life crisis, I'll call it, and I was about to move to Los Angeles. And I decided that before I moved to Hollywood and enter in the film industry full time, that I wanted to figure out once and for all what my faith was. And I had a lot of ideas about how to tackle this. You know, there was members of my extended family and immediate family that were Christian. And in America, you know, Christian stories are very much part of American, you know, folklore. We hear about the crucifixion and Easter and Christmas and all this stuff. So you get a pretty good understanding of Christianity in America, but I never understood that all this was connected, or the covenant of grace, or God's redemption, or penal substitution, or anything like that. And so I decided I wanted to figure out my faith before I did such a big life transition and move from Pennsylvania, where I was at that time, to the West Coast to California to move in the film industry. And my first idea was just to read the Bible from front to back in like a European cafe and just then decide at the end of it if Christianity was true or not. And I had some friends in college that recommended potentially it'd be good to go to some place where other people are also learning the Bible. And there's some, you know, instructors that have dedicated their life to learning the Bible so that you have some tutelage as you learn the Bible for the first time. And I'd never read the Bible up until this point. For myself, I don't think I'd ever read even the chapter outside of a couple of verses at Christmas or Easter service. And so I went to, it's called Cape and Ray Bible School in New Zealand. And it was there in what's called Adventure Bible School, where I converted to Christianity at 21 years old. We were doing a 40-hour solo where you have, this was like the 6th week of school, and you have your Bible and you're isolated in like a mile kind of radius in the bush of New Zealand. And you study and meditate, and you take into this 40-hour solo, you know, what is your biggest question to God, or like, what is your biggest difficulty with Christianity? And you take that into the wilderness with you. And so during my 40-hour solo, the verse that I took with me that I thought was just ridiculous and could never like get over, and never could understand Christians who embraced a verse or this kind of thinking, was Galatians 2:20. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives through me. And so the reason why that was so offensive to me at that point is that if it's all about God living through me and I becoming less and God becoming more, what is my place in reality? What's my place? Like, what's the purpose? Because up until that point, like the world and everything that I was doing revolved around me. And if now my life was going to flip 180 and it was going to revolve around Christ, and I was going to be a thread in his beautiful tapestry, I wanted to understand what my participation was in this journey and what, you know, my contribution could be. But it made a lot more sense through this 40-hour solo and wrestling with that verse. Something clicked where it was no longer I was battling against God to have my own glory or purpose, but understanding that it was much better to be a vessel for honorable use and to be able to be part of God's story than a vessel of destruction and be an enemy of Christ. And that is at the beginning, and that's where I realized, like, it's not Christians being weak, it's actually Christians being strong in embracing Christ for their fulfillment. And that's where my like 180 began, was in the wilderness of New Zealand. And I realized what a, you know, selfish, you know, son of a gun I'd been all my life, and how everything I'd done was tainted by sin, and that I desperately needed a savior to save myself and to become the person I was called to be. So that was 9 years ago, and here I am, still just out of the wilderness.
Wow. And was your were you already involved in film and filmmaking stuff before that? And so then it just made sense that there's this overlap now?
Yeah, thankfully, from a very early age, as early as I can remember, I always wanted to be a filmmaker, a film director. In elementary school, middle school, high school, instead of completing school assignments like making a poster or writing a paper, I would make a video with my parents, like video VHS camcorder. And so I was doing this early on. I made my first feature film with high school mates at age 17 and sold that and uploaded to Amazon and did well with that. And had made a second film right before I went to Bible school. So I already knew 100% that's what I wanted to do with my life, is be a filmmaker and storyteller. But I had never seen or even heard of the faith-based industry up until that point.
Wow.
Which was an eye-opener.
Yeah, tell us about what kind of an eye-opener that was.
Sure.
This is not the questions, but just...
I like it. So my conversion really was a 180. You know, I'm a pretty driven individual and working towards my career, and had, you know, during the summer in high school, I would study at film schools around the countries and just spent every second on my career. And so then I had this 180 where the entire universe has been properly put in order, and, you know, Christ is at the center of it. And so I wanted to see what people of faith have done for 100 years with the most powerful art form in the world, the most, you know, manipulative, potentially, medium to use. How did Christians tell the greatest story ever with this art form? And at least, especially for the last couple of decades, I was really disappointed because so much of faith-based material either has nothing to do with Christianity, and often it's extremely poor quality. And so it just didn't feel like it reflected this new faith that I had at all. And it felt more foreign than familiar. And it still feels foreign today because I just don't recognize most faith-based material, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Well, and the interesting thing is too, because there's a faith-based genre, it almost ignores the fact that there's all these great myths and stories that have been told for ages and ages and ages that are actually the retelling of that story in a mythological way, that aren't like, here, let us package it for you and explain it, like make it so simplistic that it loses its mystery and its beauty. Obviously Lord of the Rings comes to mind, which we'll have a question later regarding that. But anyway, but yeah, it's just we're just excited to meet a kindred spirit. And when I found your how did I find you?
How did you find me?
I found you. Oh, this is how, because I was looking up the Dietrich Bonhoeffer film, Agent of Grace, to do for a Faith and Film Night here. And then I saw, wait, what is that? It's another Bonhoeffer film? And then I saw it was the same photo that's on the cover of that thick book about him. And I thought, oh my gosh, somebody is doing that. And then I saw the title of it, Holy Traitor, and I'm like, who is this person? Who's making this film? And then I found Hard Faith, and then I saw like what your films are about and everything, and I sent it to Paige. I'm like, we have to get this guy on. And here we all are.
Yes. And here we all are.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that story. And I was where you are. You're in Berlin, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was there just in October for this film.
So it's a great time to bring up that question that I have, is tell us about your current project.
Yes.
So how I met Peter Jackson. No.
Oh, wait. That we're saving for the end.
Teaser alert. Teaser alert.
Teaser alert. Teaser alert.
Sorry, what was the question?
Tell us about your current project, the project that you're in development on.
My current project is on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. So Bonhoeffer was a martyr, theologian, pastor, spy during the Second World War. And he was one of the very first outspoken individuals at the very beginning of Nazism, Aryanism, and the Third Reich. He saw that they were racist and that they were spewing hatred, and they had nothing to do with Christianity as they started to manipulate the gospel of grace into an Aryan gospel, and anti-Semitic, which is, ironic with Jesus being a Jew. But so he spoke out from the very beginning on radio broadcast in his church against the Aryan movement and was persecuted for it. And the thing that's so remarkable about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and why I've wanted to make a film for him for over 2 decades, is that he was a man of principles, but not principles only, because he was a pacifist in his convictions. So he believed that all war, all murder, all violence was wrong no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And becoming a pacifist is a difficult theological understanding, especially if you take into account all the horrific horrors that we see just in our own neighborhood, let alone in some world horrors and atrocities like the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And so he was a convicted pacifist, and yet he overcame his own theological beliefs and, in a way, sacrificed his own righteousness in order to do action against evil, and was part of the assassination plots against Hitler's life, and gave permission to the resistance, a theological permission to fight back against Hitler and to execute him, to stop him, because he was so evil. So he's just a really interesting historic figure. Unfortunately, he was murdered in a concentration camp weeks before the Allies freed Germany. We just had a 75th anniversary of his martyrdom in April of this year of 2020. And so there's been stories, there's been films, like the film that you're all going to watch in your Bible study on Dietrich. But I think that the world needs to know his story, especially because I think it's just as relevant today as it was 75 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also because he wrestled so deeply with what he was doing, and his, like when he was in prison, that's what his letters were, him wrestling with maybe it wasn't like he was like he wrestled with it to the very end, and that's what's so remarkable is that he was conflicted, and yet he was kind of moving forward with something that I think it's kind of it addresses a question kind of that I think a lot of us have about, like, well, what do you do with that level of, of evil that's going on that seems like it's just not stoppable, or it's just getting worse. And anyway, but yeah, so I think it's yeah. So when in the film that you're making, are you how are you spending a lot of it on before he was imprisoned? Is there a lot of it when he is in prison?
So it starts at the Summer Olympics, with Jesse Owens, and 1936 Summer Olympics, and Hitler is frustrated because they're not winning everything, and the Americans are, and how they're also trying to hide Nazism and how bad it is, and most of their gathering up of the Jews at that time isn't happening because the world is watching leading up to the Summer Olympics, and they almost lost their bid because of the rumors, and so they hide Aryanism to a certain degree, not a huge degree. And then, as soon as the Summer Olympics are over, everything goes back to the persecution and, the Night of Glass and gathering up Jews, and things start to get a lot worse very quickly and start invading other countries. And interesting thing about Dietrich as well is that he studied at Union Theological Seminary in New York and came to America numerous times and was really influenced by America, and the Black church in America was very influenced by, and then went back to Germany and tried to apply, some of that new theology and kind of a reawakening of his faith that he experienced in New York, and had the option whenever he kind of saw, Nazism was taking over in the Third Reich, and there, World War II was underway. He had a number of options to escape and go, back to America, go to England, go to many places that wanted him, because he was a really respected theologian, and his family was really respected in Germany. Mm-hmm. And so he had multiple proposals to leave the country safely, like many others of his contemporaries did. But he stayed in Germany and died in Germany, died with the Third Reich. Yeah. He never saw Germany liberated. He was, murdered weeks before it was.
But then you kind of wonder, maybe he actually did see Germany liberated, which is why he fought so hard. You know what I mean? And he stayed there because, he had vision, you know what I mean?
He had that vision. Yeah, I think you're right. He knew one way or another, whether it was his death or others. He knew that their suffering was bringing in freedom.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's our mantra for Hard Faith, is telling stories that liberate. And so Bonhoeffer would certainly be in that realm.
Yeah. In the end of the Agent of Grace film, he when the guard walks him up to where the gallows are, and then the guard says, "Well, this is the end," and he just says no. And he's looking.
Yeah.
That he says, "No, this isn't the end. It's the beginning."
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, now it just kind of made me curious, because now I'm just wondering what it must be like to be on the set of your films. One of the films that, in particular, Generational Sins, was, oh my gosh, I was, it really got to me. I was very surprised to get emotional. But, what was the vibe like on set during that film?
Yeah, Generational Sins was crazy. That was a really intense and spiritual vibe on set. So most of our actors have no kind of faith affiliation. And I would say about half of our crew didn't. But half of our crew and a couple of our cast did. And myself, obviously, as the co-writer, director, did, and my co-producer did, and some people higher up in our team. But we all knew what we were making, even the people, like, I don't know if there's a featurette with interviews, Dax. And like even Barrett, our leading actress who plays the part of Rachel, she has some great lines in that featurette online. And she talks about how like she didn't really understand that it was a faith-based set. She didn't understand like what we were doing, what the message was behind it, but that, those weeks on set were some of the best weeks of her life, and that she talked about God and had an understanding of God. And we had faith talks openly a lot on set, and we would pray on set, and if people want to participate, they could. If they didn't want to, they didn't have to, and people knew where we were. And there was just a real focus and intentionality on that set. And God really showed up. At the beginning, there were some interesting themes throughout the whole production. The production was really just a very vivid spiritual experience. At the scene at the beginning of the film, whenever Drew is yelling up right after he loses his mother, he's yelling up to the heavens, where are you? Where are you? And obviously he echoes that again at the end. Even in that scene, there was the lightning in the sky at the pool.
Yeah.
And that lightning followed us the entire production. Yeah. And so like even in that amazing scene that opens the whole film, whenever it's storming and the house and young Drew is being beat up by his abusive father, and there's lightning and rain and wind. I mean, literally seconds after that clip, we had to cover everything with tarps and sprint to the vans because there was just this amazing tropical storm that kept following us throughout all of production. And you see it brewing in the background and coming. And then as soon as we shot that scene, at the end scene of the whole movie, and then there was the like coming together of the brothers, the storm clouds parted and the rain stopped.
Wow.
I was like, all right. And a lot of our cast and crew, we were all wrestling with our own faith journey at different parts. I had a lot of faith conversations with crew and cast, and it was just very intense. And there was a couple scenes that like you could hear a pin drop, like the mom dying scene. We played Sufjan Stevens' 4th of July about him losing his mother. And it was a really, like the camera team and lighting team were tearing up on set, and
wow,
it was really intense.
My goodness.
Yeah, that movie took a lot.
No, yeah. I mean, again, it did a number on me, which I was not expecting.
Gotcha.
What is the overall hope that you want people to take from your films?
Yeah, absolutely. So my films, obviously, the faith-based genre is hard to define. What I really want people to do, and I think good high art does this, is just to look at the world in a different way, especially look at people in a different way. So people that whether you be religious or non-religious, there's a large swath, maybe a majorative swath of humanity that's overlooked because of so many reasons, whether it be addiction or because they've sinned in the past, even gravely. And there's the us versus them, bad people, good people. And so what I hope to do with my films is to give humanity to the people that especially the faith community has written off, and give them humanity and a chance for redemption in a real world.
Wow, and this is why you and Bill Oberst are going to be best friends.
I watched his podcast. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
What an interesting gentleman.
What's that?
Yeah, what an interesting gentleman. Very similar.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, so when you hear the word possibility, what do you think of?
Possibility. It makes me think that there is an opportunity to do more. That's what I think possibility. Can
you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, usually in the terms of possibility, I think of we're doing this, but there's a possibility we could do this. Like, this is the standard. Oh, there goes my screen.
I thought you were showing us an example. See, we could do it like this, or we could do it.
And then your whole screen, everything can float. Zoom, zoom, zoom. That you can do more. That there's a possibility more can happen. That more than what you expected is a possibility.
More than what you expected. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Well, in terms of, I guess I'll just piggyback on that. Like it wasn't one of my original questions, but in terms of possibility,
Yeah.
how is it too much to wonder or ask you, how do you see that in terms of your career? Like, where are the possibilities? Where can you go? Where are you taking us?
Oh.
Oh. Man plans and God laughs, right?
Yeah.
Well,
This year, that joke is really big this year.
Yeah. Holy rip. Yeah, even COVID has been such a wrench in the plans. So
yeah, just tell us about it.
yeah, we'll see. A lot more movies. I'll give you that much. More movies. And, ideally, too, in trying to reach not just the sheep.
Come on.
Yeah. What up? We're not looking to just fatten the sheep, so we're looking to make these universal truths, give it to universal audiences. And
amen.
so that's where we're going.
Spencer.
Heck yeah.
High five from afar.
Yeah, this is why we're so excited that you're around, that you're alive.
My goodness.
So speaking of possibilities, when we first met you about a week or two ago, we were talking about myth and story, and then I mentioned a particular movie that we both all, that everybody loves. Particular trilogy, we'll say.
Oh, man.
I ate one particular Tolkien, and then Spencer said, "Oh, well, actually, I have this thing that happened. Tell us about the thing that happened related to Lord of the Rings."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Go like 1 in a million.
So I'm getting on a plane to go to Germany for the first time to location scout for my next feature film on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Holy Traitor. And I get on the plane and I put up my luggage and I go to sit down and I look at the guy that just gets on the plane putting up his luggage, and it's Peter Jackson.
You don't say.
Peter, my precious Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins.
Jackson.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Was he wearing his Birkenstocks?
Oh,
Was he?
I don't know. But
Like,
he was wearing his usual, woolen shirt, white, with like a button down here and all open here, and just living life. Curly hair, glasses.
Did you get to talk to him?
Yeah, tell us.
Oh, yeah. So right off the bat, I was like, can I get a picture? So got that picture on my Instagram.
Like before he ignores me for the rest of the flight. Let's get
And then I realized that I'm sitting by him. So I sit by Peter Jackson from Pittsburgh to Manchester, which is where the layover was.
Wow.
I think it was Manchester. No, it was somewhere else. It was one of the, Heathrow.
said Munich.
Well, yeah, because then I had to get another plane to Munich.
Oh,
so
you did.
I only got with him actually to England.
Oh, I see.
And then he got on his own plane at Heathrow after he got.
You're like, I've just rerouted. I'm actually going wherever you're going now.
I know. I was like, can I go that way? Because it was like, it was customs kind of at Heathrow, and then you had to like get to your next, terminal and go to another foreign country. But once you're in Europe, it's easier. But yeah, Peter, he just went down his own corridor. Like no one else went down that way, and he had a special like plane waiting for him or something. I don't know. I don't know where he went, but he disappeared. And I pinned myself
find the ring.
Yeah, to find the ring.
Exactly. He's in Mordor right now. He messed up all 2020. He destroyed or didn't destroy the ring, and now this is 2020.
Oh, you're saying it's all his fault.
It's all his fault.
Yeah, he didn't destroy the ring. And then COVID came out of it.
Wow, that's so amazing. And the fact that just the astronomical chances of like you being on the flight, sitting next to him, all of it.
Yeah, and I definitely wanted to instill in him that I geeked out so hard over Lord of the Rings growing up. I remember, I don't know if I told you girls this last time or if I said this or not, but I remember when I was a little kid and these came out, and I remember watching the credits in theaters, and they would roll for like 15 minutes, like all the people involved in making of the film. And I remember like near like the 14th and a half minute, I pointed to the screen and I said, if I could be any one of those names in the credit, then I would feel like I made it.
Wow.
Like a 9-year-old boy. And I told him that. And he's like, oh, you never got in the credits. No.
Wow, that's so amazing, because surely there's going to come another day where you're both at another something together, and then you're going to be able to be like reconnect with him.
Dang right.
Well, you're saying thank you for the Oscar.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, you have to present it to me. I'm sorry.
Or you guys are on a project together, receiving the Oscars together.
Oh, wow. I can tell.
Yeah. Or I hijack his flight schedule and always sit by him on future planes.
Or that.
Everywhere he flies, I'm there. Peter.
So what is the as far as because definitely this year and the virus situation has deeply affected everybody, but it's really affected the film industry. How are you navigating that as far as the film you're in the middle of?
Yes.
Might be inspiring for other filmmakers also to hear how you're.
Totally. So COVID hit at a really tough time for my business. I own a small theater chain and a restaurant, and we were expanding operations to locations in Texas and a new restaurant in Pittsburgh and another theater in Pittsburgh. And then I had Shooting Heroin come out, which is my last film on the opioid epidemic. And that was supposed to come out in theaters nationwide April 3rd. Oh, but then COVID. So it was an online and digital release only, home video. And we had 50 theaters booked and a red carpet premiere and all this crap. Anyway, the theaters, all but one, shut down. Restaurant shut down. The premiere stayed on date, but switched to just cable and digital. So no big theatrical release like we had planned. And then Bonhoeffer, right on the tail of Shooting Heroin finishing up. June last month, we were supposed to begin pre-production on Bonhoeffer. Had partial funding, making offers to talent, and then we're going to go back to Germany this last month and start hiring below the line crew and crewing up for like a fall shooting schedule. But that has all been delayed indefinitely until we can put the dates on a calendar when it's safe for our crew to go back to Germany. And people are getting permission as of now, special permission to film internationally, but it's mostly for high profile studio pictures. Like I know The Matrix 4 is supposed to return to filming in Berlin this month in July.
In Berlin?
Yeah, they already filmed half the movie there, and then the shutdown happened, and now they're coming back to finish it.
Is Keanu going to be in this one?
Oh yeah, number 4. Yeah, and I think even Lawrence Fishburne's going to be in it.
At the front door.
Yeah, and Wachowski, they're directing it, and so yeah.
Wow.
The 4th one, and it was halfway done, and then they had to stop production, and now they're coming back in Berlin this month supposedly. But U.S. COVID cases are skyrocketing, so we'll see if that happens.
Okay. Wow.
Craziness. So advice is, you never know what tomorrow brings. Today has enough trouble for itself.
So as far as the film, though, the Shooting Heroin one, how can we watch it?
Any of your films, how can people watch them?
Yeah, so domestically and internationally it varies. So Shooting Heroin is now available on all domestic sites for cable, from Dish Network and AT&T and Verizon and Comcast. All that stuff is available, iTunes, Amazon, Google, domestically. And then international is going to begin hopefully in August next month. So we're working with our same international distributors we use for Generational Sins. And so it should be available in all ways internationally. And you sell off each foreign territory usually individually. And international sales is also backed up and changed because, like Cannes, the largest foreign market, was taken virtually. So sales are just very slow, and there's no big market to point to sell films internationally. But it could be available as early as August. Generational Sins came out domestically and internationally in October of 2017. And so it has been available domestically and internationally for the most part for 3 years, most places that you find movies. But we just recently this month changed our domestic distributor. And so some of that, they took down international sites in the confusion of switching our domestic distributor because they were handling the domestic rights, and they just took down both rights. So we're getting that all ironed out, but Generational Sin should be back online next month as well.
Sweet.
Domestically and internationally. If ever you have, in just learning about our productions, there's a couple different sites that you can go to. Hardfaith.com is this third way, telling stories that liberate. That's our trademark, and that's our company.
Yeah, we will be linking this in under our video too. We'll get your links from you so people can.
Yeah, that would be great. And Hard Faith is like for everything that we're talking about, and faith and real life stories. That's kind of the headquarters for that. And then Veritas Arts is the theater chain and some of the co-production and distribution that we do. And then my own site is just spencerfolmar.com, and you can learn about my side projects as well.
Okay. So just to clarify real quick, for Shooting Heroin, for example, as of next month, it will be like on Amazon Prime Video or that kind of thing for us?
Yeah, internationally. Heck yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Definitely we'll look for that. Definitely we'll look for that. All right.
Yay. Spencer, we can continue talking to you forever.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, just all that you have to say, your laugh, your old, like everything about you is just, we're so delighted to know you and to have gotten a chance to interview you. Thank you so much for existing.
Oh, y'all are great. I'm so glad we got connected, and I look forward to meeting in person one day.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love your podcast. I watched a couple of the episodes. Y'all are doing good work.
Yeah.
I love the intro videos too, like hyping up, like we have a podcast coming.
Thank you. For those who are probably wondering, like I was wondering, could you maybe explain the accent?
Yeah. Did I explain it last time?
You explained it to us, yes.
Okay. So my mom has a Southern accent. She says y'all and like all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then my dad has some kind of accent. It's a little bit English. It's a little bit just, I don't know, Euro. And
is he English?
What's that?
Is your dad English?
No, we're all American, just speak weird. But and my dad was in Diesel growing up. So we spent a lot of time internationally. I've spent a lot of time in British colonies. I've lived in Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, the Upper Lake District of the United Kingdom, and America, which used to be a British colony. So I call it a colonial accent because it collects all of it. But yeah, it's just a speech impediment. I don't know what it is. It's inconsistent. Some words sound super British. Some words sound super English. Some words sound super Pennsylvanian.
It's a mashup. It's your own special accent. Exactly. It's the Spencer Folmar accent. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, that's right. We'll call it that.
We'll be coming out about it.
Yeah. Well, when you come to Berlin or London or wherever, we will definitely, I mean, it's not even a question that once you set foot here, we're going to be welcoming you.
For sure.
I would love it. And I hope to be stepping on German soil soon, as soon as all this stuff is over.
Yeah. Are you thinking that may be a possibility this year still?
No, I definitely hope so this fall. Like October, September, as long as things, start clearing up. But it looks good still. That's what I'm still planning on.
Okay. Well,
we're gonna be praying.
We'll be waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
And will you go into London during that trip?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then we'll see you either way.
Thank you so much, Spencer.
Thank you.
This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
we look forward to having another one of these conversations, whether it be online or offline. It's going to happen. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Definitely. Anytime. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching my film and supporting us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And
Totally.
I can't wait to see more episodes of your podcast.
Yes.
Thank you.
High five.
High five.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a great day, great week, and enjoy your morning since it's still
Guten Tag. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what a conversation. That dude,
I know.
I'm telling you.
I couldn't stop laughing.
Could not stop laughing.
And then yet so profound at the same time. It just goes from like hysterical laughter to this really, deep stuff. So.
And then there's Peter Jackson. Hope you guys enjoyed that as much as Mo and I did. Thank you for joining us. And thank you again, Spencer, so much. You are a joy. You're a gem.
Yes.
Thank you.
And please, if you're listening, if you would please like, subscribe, comment. We'd love to hear from you and hear what your thoughts were. Hear what you got out of this episode. That would be amazing. We love hearing from you.
Until then,
Peace.
toodaloo. Bye, guys.